How you doing, my fellow deplorables? Somebody called me a deplorable today for sticking by President Trump. And you know what? I was honored. I consider the term a badge of honor, really, and you should too. The last thing we crave is the approval of the media elites. It is so liberating. They have built themselves a prison, and the inmates are also the guards at the same time. It's amazing, that sick, little, warped culture they built all for themselves. I want no part of it, and trust me, I don't think you do either. All right, we had a little bit of news just a few minutes ago. Bill Barr, the Attorney General, has put in his resignation letter. Probably was fired, most likely. The president put out a pretty warm tweet, hey, did a great job, all's well, and a nice letter from Bill Barr. But let's face it, he let down a lot of people. Here's what I think happened. Well, he was pretty good when he talked about the Constitution in front of friendly groups. And he certainly stuck up for himself when confronted by hostile Democrats. But when it came to actually managing the Department of Justice, the deep state portion, I think he was in over his head. Who knows? Maybe he'll write a book about it. Maybe someday President Trump will. But remember when I told you how he was good at shutting down Democrats, or at least keeping his cool in the storm? Watch this.
I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. General.
And my time is limited. I have the time.
So what
reclaiming my time.
Yeah, I'm answering your question.
Well, you got to let him answer.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time, sir. Reclaiming my time. And I know you don't want to answer.
I'm not saying that.
I reclaim my time.
Reclaiming my time.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Attorney General. Reclaiming my time.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time, Mr. Attorney. Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time, Mr. Barr.
Okay, reclaiming my time. Excuse me, the time is fine.
I mean, come on. How do you put up with that? That takes some talent and patience. But look, the Durham investigation, what happened to that? And also, the Justice Department was sitting on all this information about Hunter Biden. I thought D.C. was the town of leaks. A lot of voters would have liked to have known that Hunter Biden and his uncle were under a federal investigation. That was kind of pertinent, I think, before the election. It wasn't really helpful. Now, he had his reasons, I'm sure, but pretty much a disappointment. I think he was probably fired by the president. We will learn more. All right, so back to us. And where are we right now? Our president is in the fight of his life. And there are people right now who are out there calling Joe Biden the president-elect. Now, at this point, there is some political and some historical justification for them to do so at this point. I personally feel they're wrong. I'll go into that in just a moment. But first, the Electoral College, basically in the state capitals, they went through the votes, and this is what it looked like. It was all virtual because of COVID. And they did their thing, and it looks like at this point he's got 270 electoral votes, plus Joe Biden does. This is how the governor of Wisconsin put it, but something important to tell you about this. Watch this first, though.
The will of the people is the law of the land. And we have accomplished that by determining who the next president and vice president of the United States are.
All right, Governor Evers, I'm sorry, it's actually not up to you. We know you're rooting for Joe and Kamala. But according to the Constitution, I did say there was political and media precedent for what he just said. People do that, president-elect. They've always been in a hurry to call Joe Biden the president-elect. But let's take a look at the Handbook for America, the United States Constitution. Let's go through this, please, item by item. This part happened today. The electors shall meet in their respective states and vote by ballot for two persons, the president and the vice president. That happened. Next up, please. They shall make a list of all the persons voted for and the number of votes for each. Again, that happened today. This is where it goes into the future a little bit. Next up, if you don't mind, which list they shall sign and certify and transmit sealed to the seat of the government of the United States directed to the President of the Senate. Okay, they've got to send these votes to Washington, D.C. That's the seat of government. directed to the President of the Senate. That's the Vice President. And this is important. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and House of Representatives, open all the certificates and votes shall then be counted. Technically, I don't think we're supposed to know the results. I mean, it did say sealed in that previous slide. All right, and finally, this is most important, actually. The person having the greatest number of votes shall be the president. That does not happen until January 6th, and the person who's doing the counting in front of the House and the Senate is the Vice President of the United States. Look, how I read it, we won't have a president-elect until then. And as you know, there are still challenges all over the place. And some states are sending alternate delegations of electors to Washington, D.C., like kind of a shadow team of electors. The constitutionality of that, I can't answer for you. But this is important, and it's not receiving enough attention. A major report on Dominion systems and what happened in one county, Antrim County, in Michigan. This was long anticipated. They did not want this released, but it was ordered so, I believe, by a judge. The report was assembled by a cybersecurity expert named Russell Ramsland, who received some attention about 10 days ago. He testified before the lawmakers in Georgia. I'll read a portion from the top, actually. We conclude that Dominion voting system is intentionally and purposely designed with inherent errors to create systemic fraud and influence election results. The system intentionally generates an enormously high number of ballot errors. The electronic ballots are then transferred to adjudication. The intentional errors lead to bulk adjudication of ballots with no oversight, no transparency, and no audit trail. I'll show you how that's done in a moment. The allowable election error rate established by the Federal Election Commission guidelines is 1 in 250,000 ballots. That's 0.0008%. We observed, these experts, an error rate of 68.05%. This demonstrated a significant and fatal error in security and election integrity. It is critical to understand that Dominion system classifies ballots into two categories: normal ballots and adjudicated ballots. Ballots sent for adjudication can be altered by administrators, and adjudication files can be moved between different results tally. All right, it does get technical, but there's a little video here, and this is what happens when a ballot needs to be adjudicated. Take a look.
It's supposed to do blank ballots. So let's see if it does the blank ballots like it's supposed to. Let's see. It scanned it. I'm going to accept it into the system. And now let's see if it goes over for adjudication. Okay, it sent it to adjudication. And there's my batch, my blank ballot that I want to adjudicate. And I'm going to vote for Doug Collins. I'm going to vote for Bubba. And I am going to complete it. And I just counted that vote.
So if you put a ballot in the machine, it's supposed to count it, and everything's fine. Every now and then, it can't tell who you voted for. Then it goes over for adjudication. That's the process where it gets very, very scary and susceptible to all kinds of fraud. 68% of these things were being sent over for adjudication, and you saw that woman there. It's as easy as on a keyboard in a computer. One person can do it with no oversight. This is significant. Research is ongoing, they report. However, based on preliminary results, the error rates are so significant that they call into question the integrity and legitimacy of the results in Antrim County in the 2020 election. And because the same machines and software are used in 48 other counties in Michigan, this casts doubt on the integrity of the entire election in the state of Michigan. Folks, this is significant stuff. The mainstream media are ignoring it, just like they ignored other significant stories. Hunter Biden. We talked about it on this show. They all laughed at Rudy Giuliani. They said it was Russian disinformation. Guess what? It's real. Now they're playing catch up. They're holding their nose because they're kind of embarrassed, but they don't know what to do. But these are very, very legitimate issues. They were then, they are now. Do you want to count Donald Trump out? I personally would not. Let's go back. June 16th, 2015, when he came down that escalator in Trump Tower, the entire political world said, this is a joke. I didn't. I was there. But all the experts were saying so. The headline of New York's paper, Daily News, clown runs for president. They did that themselves. They made him up in makeup, huh? That wasn't nice at all. They said he could not get the nomination. Then he got the nomination. Then they said he could not beat Hillary Clinton. They had that stupid little daily tracker. 91% chance Hillary had. Of course, we know how it all ended. Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th president of the United States, and they have not forgiven him for that, for succeeding, for humiliating them. They will hate him forever. More recently, he has pulled off some miracles, literally, arguably. This vaccine for COVID-19. When he said this on the left, coronavirus vaccine could come this year, Trump says. Experts say he needs a miracle to be right. There are a lot of things that could go wrong, and they put that in the lie category. You know, those big lists they would make. You saw over the weekend, delivery of first COVID-19 vaccines expected on Monday, which is today. So, you know the track record. You know what's going on. My fellow deplorables, what do you want to do? Do you want to rule out Donald Trump at this point? Or do you want to listen to guys like Chuck Todd, who have been wrong every single step of the way? He did this yesterday. He was wagging his finger at all of us. I mean, where do you get off? Chuck Todd, don't do that anymore. You're gonna think that this guy is right. Is he going to get it right finally, or Donald Trump? Who has the more impressive track record at this point? I'm going to go with Trump. All right, don't count him out. My fellow deplorables, it's not over. Okay, folks, we'll be right back with Steve Scalise, hero congressman. We'll hear what he has to say about Bill Barr, the election, and his very interesting showdown yesterday with Chris Wallace. Congressman, we'll be right back. Joined by Congressman Steve Scalise, Republican of Louisiana, House Minority Whip. Congressman, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
Doing great, Greg. Good to be back with you.
Great to have you. First off, Bill Barr, resigned, fired, one or the other. Let's face it, I was frustrated. A lot of people were frustrated by him, particularly this Hunter Biden situation that apparently he knew about. What are your thoughts now that we know he's on his way out?
Yeah, you know, there was so much of this stuff that had come out, and over a year ago, it seems like the Hunter Biden case had been known by justice. The debate, Chris Wallace moderated that first debate where President Trump was going after Joe Biden on this, and Joe Biden was saying it wasn't true. And it turns out, now that this was going on and maybe deeper than we thought, that on top of the FBI scandal where some of the FBI agents that tried to entrap the president and were spying on his campaign 4 years ago, and when he came down those escalators, that was alarming and very frustrating that wasn't dealt with more aggressively as well.
So, I remember that. Well, you mentioned Chris Wallace, by the way. You were on Chris Wallace's show yesterday, and he tried to make a lame attempt to justify his network's coverage of the Hunter Biden situation before the election. I didn't see it, but let's look at that exchange, if you don't mind.
Many in the mainstream media were mocking people who were putting this story out there, and it turns out, looks like it was true. It's being much more widely reported now after the election, and it's another reason that people have real distrust in the mainstream media.
Oh, shoot. Well, I wish we had Chris Wallace trying to give you a hard time of when he said, Well, we did cover it, and I looked it up. He had like one reporter do 8 seconds on it, and he basically did Joe Biden's denial, did not do anything about the substance of the story. So even Fox blew off the story, which was hugely frustrating and hugely unfair to the president, I think.
Yeah, and during the campaign, Chris Wallace himself expressed very high skepticism of the story when they were reporting it, but they were reporting it with skepticism. It wasn't like, okay, there's this allegation out there that Hunter Biden had gotten these contracts with the government of Russia or with China or, all the other allegations that were very alarming. And they just covered it all up. And when they would report it, it was in the context of a baseless claim. And this is, by the way, coming from the people who made baseless claims after President Trump for months and months. The headlines about this whistleblower is going to put everybody in jail. And then that testimony would come out later that day. And there was nothing there. They impeached President Trump over an allegation that turned out to be false. And here you've got the Hunter Biden story turning out to be true. Eric Swalwell, who was one of the main accusers of President Trump, turns out that he had a relationship with a Chinese spy. In fact, the Chinese spy had gotten possibly some people infiltrating into his office. He got on the House Intelligence Committee. Where's the alarm and the outrage by the mainstream media over that?
Yeah. All right. So, look, I don't know if you heard my opening statement, but I actually am emphasizing that while a lot of people are calling Joe Biden the president-elect, as I'm sure you know, according to the U.S. Constitution, we're not there yet. These votes have to be transmitted to the president of the Senate. He has to open them. He has to count them. He has to do it before the House and the Senate, and then a president is chosen. What's your perspective on all of this? You know about what's still happening, the challenges that are ongoing. It's not looking great for the president, but I don't think it's over.
Yeah, you never count Donald Trump out. But in the end, the President Trump is utilizing the same legal system that's been available for everybody who's run for president. You go back to Bush v. Gore. How many people were asking Republicans to acknowledge a president-elect Al Gore as they were trying to keep counting more and more votes in Broward County? At least you only had one county there where they were really having high irregularities. Here you have multiple states with a lot of irregularities.
So your colleague, Pascrell, I think his name is, a congressman from New Jersey, he has a crazy idea, in my opinion. He says that no Republican who supported the president in this quest in challenging the results and making sure there was no cheating, he says, if possible, refuse to seat in the 117th Congress any members-elect seeking to make Donald Trump an unelected dictator, which is obviously hyperbole right there. But, I mean, people on his side, they're citing the 14th Amendment, and they're saying there's cause here, which there isn't. Not at all. You first, then I'll tell you why I think he's nuts.
Well, for just the idea that using the legal system as it was laid out to challenge questions that millions of people have with things that happened in a number of states where they didn't even follow their own state law. If that's the definition of insurrection, and you can't even be seated when you were duly elected by the people, the 750,000 people or so that were all elected to represent, like that, they can say whatever they want. I think they really have been on shaky ground for a while on this stuff, but they're doing everything they can to change the subject from things that happened in the election. And frankly, with these elections in January, on January 5th in Georgia, we've got to clean this stuff up.
I really recommend
for weeks and weeks.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I recommend everybody read the Constitution. It's so straightforward, more than you realize. And it says right there that Pascrell is a nut. They actually wrote that down. I'm actually curious. You were shot on that baseball field back in 2017. We almost lost you. You look fantastic now. Is that something you think about every single day, or are there some days where it goes by and you don't think about what happened?
Greg, I do every day recognize that I'm lucky to be alive. I know the miracles that happened, just the things that could have easily gone wrong where I wouldn't be here. So I enjoy every day. I cherish every day. I'm honored to be able to fight for the things I believe in, and I love this country, and I'm going to keep fighting for it every day.
Beautiful. Congressman Steve Scalise, so happy to have you again. To be continued.
Great to be back, Greg.
Okay, take care now. Folks, we'll be back with the man in the middle of the fight in Michigan, Matthew DePerna. That report I read at the top of the show, it was actually addressed to him. Also, restaurant owners here in New York and employees are out of luck thanks to an incompetent governor. Yeah, be right back. Matthew DePerno should be the most famous man in America right now. He is waging an incredible fight. He's a constitutional attorney representing voters in the election lawsuit against Antrim County in Michigan. We had him here Friday for the Texas news. It looks like all kinds of horrific things happened with those Dominion voting systems, at least according to the documentation I've been looking at. Matthew, first of all, welcome back. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. First off, what kind of dog? All right, never mind. Where are you right now? I just have this report that summarized about how Dominion did everything wrong, potentially on purpose. According to this document that was assembled by the cybersecurity experts, they did not want it released publicly. It was. Where do you go from here?
Well, we've transferred that report to everyone we could think of today, all the state legislatures, the state senators, other people. I know the president now has it, and we hope they read it and understand how significant the findings are.
Number one, I want to put up the full screen. The original presidential election results in Antrim County on November 3rd, 2020. Let's take a look at it, please. We have 7,769 votes for Biden. And then for Trump, 4,509 votes. But that was wrong. And here are the actual results. Trump up by a very significant margin over Joe Biden. First, they said, I believe this was a human error. Then they said it was a mechanical error. Then they said it was a human error. What happened?
Well, what happened was the machine is designed to generate huge numbers of errors when you run ballots through the tabulator. And then those ballots, those errors, go to adjudication where someone sitting somewhere, we don't know where, can simply click on one button and bulk adjudicate thousands of ballots at once. So in this case, they were able to adjudicate, 12,000 ballots roughly, with one click of the button.
Okay, and that's not good. Adjudication and the rate of ballots that were being adjudicated, i.e., it goes through the machine, something doesn't look right, a human being has to take it and do something with it. What was the rate of ballots that needed to be adjudicated?
68% of the ballots run through the machine had to be adjudicated.
And tell us just how crazy off the wall that number is or isn't. It seems kind of high.
It's very high because the federal allowable rate is 1 in 125,000 ballots. That's the error rate. And this program is designed specifically to generate these types of errors, and that's how they move votes from one candidate to another. They put them in these folders for mass adjudication, and they are shipped somewhere. In our case, specifically, as you see in the report, we can't tell that right now because on November 4th, all of those system files, adjudication files, and internet files were deleted. So that's pretty significant also.
I want to show you these lawmakers who showed up as the Electoral College was doing its thing in the state capitol, which is in Michigan. I guess that's Lansing, right? Lansing, Michigan. They were turned away. Let's listen.
I understand. And their constitutional duty requires them to be at the Senate chamber today at 2 p.m.
All right, I understand they're not being permitted in. If you have a problem, you can contact the governor's office, the Speaker of the House.
It is kind of interesting, a delegation of Congress, members of Congress and state lawmakers not being allowed into the state capitol. I'll ask you again. I mean, there is all sorts of smoke. I mean, this looks really, really bad. Yet we've got 98% of the mainstream media, all of the mainstream media running around saying it's over, and we've got President-elect Biden. Went through the Constitution at the top of the show. We know there's more time. We know that it's not official until the president of the Senate counts all those votes, and that hasn't happened yet. What next? I'm still unclear.
Well, look in the report. We specifically have in the report 2 paragraphs that deal with the 2018 executive order regarding foreign interference. So this is not over. There's still options for the president, and we hope that we've given him something to go on here based on our investigation, because if this happened in Antrim County and with these machines, there's 48 other counties in Michigan that use the same machines, and there's hundreds of counties across the country that also use them. And foreign interference like this needs to be dealt with, and I think the president will take action.
Matthew, it's up to the president again. He's always got to do it himself. He always got to do it. But it's good that he's got guys like you out there helping. Matthew DePerno, we appreciate it. Good luck. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
You bet. Coming up, Dick Morris. And, did you hear about the guy who had the audacity to call Dr. Jill Biden just Jill Biden? Like she should, get over the thing of calling herself a doctor? She's not a doctor. Anyway, they want to cancel him, and I don't think that's right. We'll be right back. Okay, there's Joe Biden. He's speaking live right now in Wilmington. We got to listen. I promise it won't be long.
They didn't seek the spotlight. And our democracy survived because of them, which is proof, once more, that it's everyday Americans infused with honor, character, and decency that is the heart of this nation. In this election, their integrity was matched by their strength, independence, and the integrity of our judicial system. In America, when questions are raised about the legitimacy of any election, those questions are resolved through the legal processes. And that's precisely what happened here. The Trump campaign brought dozens and dozens and dozens of legal challenges to test the result. They were heard again and again. And each of the time they were heard, they were found to be without merit. Time and again, President Trump's lawyers presented arguments to state officials, state legislatures, state and federal courts, and ultimately to the United States Supreme Court twice. They were heard by more than 80 judges across this country, and in every case, no cause or evidence was found to reverse or question or dispute the results. A few states went for recounts. All the counts were confirmed. The results in Georgia were counted 3 times. Didn't change the outcome. The recount conducted in Wisconsin actually saw our margin grow. The margin we had in Michigan was 14 times the margin President Trump won that state by 4 years ago. Our margin in Pennsylvania was nearly twice the size of the Trump margin 4 years ago. And yet, none of this has stopped baseless claims about the legitimacy of the results. Even more stunning, 17 Republican attorneys general and 126 Republican members of the Congress actually signed on to a lawsuit filed by the state of Texas. That lawsuit asked the United States Supreme Court to reject the certified vote counts in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. This legal maneuver was an effort by elected officials and one group of states to try to get the Supreme Court to wipe out the votes of more than 20 million Americans in other states and to hand the presidency to a candidate.
It's interesting. He's dwelling on the lawsuits. He seems to be taking issue with the Republicans who had concerns about, yes, the legitimacy of this election. How about that? Why would we have such an idea? Why would we have that idea, Joe Biden? Do we have my favorite little sound clip? Do we have that ready? All right, we will during the course of this interview with Dick Morris, presidential strategist. Welcome back, Dick. I suggest everybody check out dickmorris.com. Dick, hey, Dick, how are you?
Good, I'm great, Greg.
All right, Dick. You know what happened today. Now, you probably heard what I said earlier. The president-elect designation, yes, in a normal year when an election is not conceded, there is political and media precedent for making that designation. And there probably is for this at this point. However, technically, under the Constitution, that does not happen until January 6th. And only the president of the Senate, once he counts the votes, can make that determination. From a strictly constitutional standpoint, am I correct, please?
Oh, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But I think we have to realize, Greg, that part of the Democratic plan to steal this election, and I believe it was a carefully concocted plan. I have a book that I'm in the middle of writing that'll come out right after Christmas called Stolen, How They Did It. And a big part of that was the second the second the first state could be called, the first of the swing states, they jumped in and announced that Biden had won. And then he trotted out his cabinet appointments in record time. No president has appointed his cabinet so quickly. And he's making all kinds of statements as president-elect. I saw there's a logo. I've never seen that before, President-elect Joe Biden. And it's all designed to rush this thing through. I believe, Greg, that the Supreme Court was intimidated into making the decision that it made to reject even hearing this case. I believe that during the campaign, the Democrats raised the prospect of packing the Supreme Court. Now, why would they do that? They know that's a losing issue. They know that that's unpopular. In fact, Biden said that if he talked about it, it could become the focus of the whole campaign. He didn't want to do that. But then he announced he would form a commission that would rule in 180 days. It was like a sword of Damocles hanging over the court. And Democrat after Democrat urged the proposal to pack the court. And I think that that was a shot across the bow of the court. I think that it was designed to intimidate the judges, including the ones Trump appointed, into voting to dismiss the lawsuit.
Dick,
not only would they face outrage, they might be packed.
Right. So, Dick, well, you know what? Here's the thing, though. If Biden prevails, and I still think that the president has a chance here, but if Biden prevails, he's probably going to stack the court. And the court, ultimately, especially a guy like John Roberts, would regret maybe not taking a more aggressive role in all of this, strictly from a human standpoint. I mean, he wants 9 justices, I'm sure, and it looks like Joe Biden is going to stack the court if he gets that far. It's kind of ironic in a way, huh?
It is, but I prefer to believe that that there's a tacit understanding that if the court stays out of Biden's way, he won't try to pack the court. This will only become reality if we lose in Georgia. And that brings us back to your Michigan County segment. Those exact same voting machines are being used in Georgia right now in the Senate runoff. And if the Democrats win that, and then they'll control everything. And I think that the danger here is that the Democrats take over the Senate. They take over the court by packing the Senate and the House, and they have the White House, and we're a one-party system. But the fraud in the Dominion voting machines is incredible. And bear in mind, the reason Governor Kelly in Georgia, Governor Kemp in Georgia is not pushing for getting rid of the Dominion machines is he was elected governor on a platform of having the Dominion voting machines. There was a big fight in the primary. His primary opponent said, hand tabulate them. And he said, no, we're going to move into the 21st century and we'll automate it and we'll give it to Dominion. And he gave a $105 million state contract to install Dominion. He's totally invested in it. God knows if he has a financial stake in it. And he's not backing off that.
Dick, I got to, as we wrap up here, does the president have a chance, in your opinion?
Well, I got to tell you, Greg, until I heard your report tonight, I was about to say no. But that is a heck of a report. I'm just reading now the rebuttal to it that they issue. You know, what the way Google does it these days is it puts the rebuttal first so that you read the rebuttal before you read the charge. That's engineering by Google.
Yeah.
But I think they got a case there.
You know, it's so interesting. You mentioned the rebuttal first, and some of the networks, Fox News in particular, they were reporting Joe Biden's denials to the Hunter Biden story before they were reporting the Hunter Biden story, which I found kind of interesting. And now we know that they know that the Hunter Biden story is legitimate, the mainstream media, now that they think Joe Biden is safe. Thank you very much, Dick Morris. Please check out dickmorris.com. Some great stuff up there, dickmorris.com. Thank you, sir. So, folks, New York City, we have closed down the restaurants, which, in my opinion, totally unnecessary. I want to bring in Tina Maria Abbadasano. She runs or owns Il Bacco restaurant. She's in Queens, New York. Tina Maria, hi, how are you? Welcome to Newsmax. How are you?
Hi. Hi, Greg. I just want to say thanks for having me. And I want to thank you and your team of Newsmax. I think you guys are all fantastic and have been doing a great job with everything that's been going on lately.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Tina. So how do you feel right now? And you heard what I said. I don't think this is justified. And I base that on the numbers. They don't have that much data, at least that they publicly released, that COVID is being transmitted in restaurants. But so how do you feel tonight?
That is absolutely correct. There is no science. There is no logic behind closing down restaurants, especially right now, after everything that all these people have been through. 9% of employment in New York State is from the food industry. And then you have 5,000 restaurants already in the past 9 months have already been shut down permanently. I mean, you see numbers like the New York State contract tracers. They came out saying that, they want to label, Cuomo and de Blasio want to label restaurants and bars as super spreaders, so to speak. Meanwhile, the contract tracers have already said that we're only 1.4% of the issue. So there just goes, what's the science, what's the logic with doing something like this, especially today out of all days, being that the vaccine has just come out? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I can't wait to go to the restaurant and see you and see the restaurant. It looks fantastic once it's open. Hey, Governor Cuomo, I don't know if you saw this in the New York Post, which has turned out, by the way, to be probably the greatest paper in America. Seriously. Look at this. It's totally offensive. Governor Cuomo had his birthday, and they're having a birthday party. It is a campaign event. Look at this. The birthday holiday reception for Governor Cuomo. All kinds of celebrities come in. You spend all this money to get access to the main reception, the secondary reception, all that nonsense. While restaurant owners like you...
Everything to fund him.
Go ahead.
and he'll do anything to get, funded and donations. And he's taking away jobs from everybody, but he's still getting his paycheck. And that's truly the bottom line, and that's the main problem that we have. Yeah, no, if he had a sense of decorum here, he would at least forego his pay. And, I mean, to do this to you guys, I mean, I go to a restaurant every Saturday night, by the way, and the waiters are there. Do you know anybody in your restaurant who's gotten COVID? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but has anybody gotten COVID there? No, not at all. I have to say, not one person that I know or have heard of. Nobody has gotten COVID. I think it falls back again. The virus has a 97 to 99% chance of survival rate. So at this point, if someone does fear COVID or is scared of going out and contracting a virus, then just stay home. It shouldn't reflect on everybody else. It shouldn't take away everybody else's livelihoods. Enough is enough. People want to go to work.
Hear you loud and clear. Can't wait till you're open again. Tina Maria
Thank you.
Abbadasano, Il Bacco restaurant in Queens. What neighborhood in Queens, please? Sorry.
Little Neck, Queens.
Yes. Oh, beautiful little part of Queens. I'll check it out. Thank you very much. Hopefully this won't last long.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.
Thank you.
And Governor Cuomo, get it together or resign. All that money you raise should go to the people that you're bankrupting right now. I mean it. All right. When we come back, I do have to do a little correction for a little bit of fake news I put out there by mistake. But yeah, I did it. Be right back. hey, maybe the fake news is giving me such a hard time. I glanced at this video earlier and I saw the Brady Bunch box in the middle. To me, that looks like a virtual meeting, doesn't it? That's a Zoom meeting. Anyway, I mistakenly said that they were all Zoom meetings. Yes, others are actually in person. They're social distancing, but the Nevada delegation is certainly, that's a Zoom call. Looks like those folks are at home. Some might be in the office. Anyway, so they were not strictly virtual. Some were happening in person with social distancing being enforced. All right, did you hear about this over the weekend? Dr. Jill Biden, someone had the boldness, the nerve to say, what if the doctor part is a little bit pretentious? So apparently she has a PhD in education. She got it in her mid-50s, and now she runs around saying, I'm Dr. Jill Biden. Most PhDs don't do that. All right. So this guy named Joseph Epstein, who's this kind of character professor at Northwestern, wrote up an article about this. Is there a doctor in the White House? Not if you need an MD. And he basically said what I just said. People who are PhDs, who call themselves doctors, are a little full of themselves, a little bit obnoxious. Well, now the whole world is going crazy on this guy. Led by the Biden campaign. They're trying to cancel this guy. Apparently, his profile's already been taken off the Northwestern University's website. What is this, Russia? I think everybody should lighten up, especially the Biden people. Be right back. Folks, one of the perks of having your own TV show, every now and then I can make it personal. Happy anniversary to my mother and father, Raymond and Veronica Kelly. There they are, getting married on December 14th, 1963, at the Brooklyn Navy Club here in New York City. My dad was a 22-year-old Marine Corps second lieutenant. My mom was 19 years old, and they've been married ever since. Oh, funny story. They left on their honeymoon and had a car accident in the Holland Tunnel. They spent their wedding night in a police station. No kidding. It wasn't their fault, but they had to, whatever. Long story. There they are today, and they're my best friends, great people. Oh, and they have another person they count as their best friend. You see that? A granddaughter, their first one. My wife, Judith, and I provided this little girl, Annalise, about 10 months ago. So happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you, Judith. Thank you, Annalise. All right, folks, that is it. Thank you for indulging me. Hey, it is not over. It's not, actually. You can look it up in the Constitution. We'll see what happens, folks. Stand by for Stinchfield. Hey, it's tough. It's got a tough fight. Bleak, but he's been in tough spots before. Stay tuned, and I'll see you tomorrow.